Imagine a time long before weather apps, TV news, or even a simple radio, when people had to rely on their own senses and the environment around them to predict natural disasters. Ancient civilizations, from the Mayans in Central America to the Greeks in Europe, developed unique methods to anticipate natural events that could threaten their communities. These early predictions weren't based on technology, but rather on keen observations of nature, animal behavior, and celestial events. In today's video, we're going on a journey to explore these fascinating ancient methods of predicting disasters, like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, and storms. We'll also see what modern science has to say about these ancient practices and how they compare to today's technology. Get ready for an exciting adventure into the past. Ancient earthquake predictions. Listening to the earth. Earthquakes are sudden and often devastating, causing destruction in just moments. In ancient times, people didn't have the seismic sensors or early warning systems we have today. Instead, they developed their own ways of predicting earthquakes by paying close attention to changes in the environment. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Aristotle observed that earthquakes often followed certain weather patterns, such as calm, still air, and unusual atmospheric conditions. They believed that changes in underground water levels or strange animal behavior were signs of an impending earthquake. Dogs, for example, would start barking frantically, or snakes would leave their burrows and appear in unusual places. Modern science provides some support for these observations. It's known that some animals can sense the preliminary tremors, called P waves, which are the first, weaker seismic waves that come before the more destructive S waves. These early vibrations may be enough to disturb animals, causing them to act strangely. There's also evidence that changes in groundwater or underground gases might trigger certain animal behaviors. While these methods are far from perfect, they show how closely ancient people watched nature for clues. Predicting volcanoes. Signs from the mountain volcanoes have long been both feared and revered by ancient cultures. The sudden eruption of a volcano could wipe out entire villages, so predicting such events was crucial for survival. The Romans, living near Mount Vesuvius, were particularly aware of the dangers posed by these natural giants. The ancient Romans observed several signs that a volcano might erupt soon. They noted unusual animal behavior, such as cattle refusing to graze or birds leaving the area. They also observed changes in the mountain itself, such as bulging or swelling of the ground, increased steam and gas emissions, or strange sounds like rumbling or groaning coming from deep within the earth. Modern volcanologists still rely on similar signs to predict eruptions today, though with much more sophisticated tools. They use seismographs to detect small earthquakes or tremors caused by magma moving underground. Satellites can measure the bulging of a volcano's surface as magma pushes up from below. Gas sensors detect increases in sulfur dioxide or other volcanic gases, which can indicate that an eruption is imminent. Despite the technological advancements, the basic principle remains the same. Watch for changes that might signal a volcano is waking up. Tsunamis and ancient warnings. Reading the ocean's signs. Tsunamis, with their immense and sudden waves, are among the most terrifying natural disasters. Coastal communities throughout history have faced the threat of these giant waves, often with little warning. However, some ancient cultures developed ways to predict or at least recognize the signs of an approaching tsunami. In Japan, for instance, there is an ancient story about a fisherman who noticed that the sea suddenly receded far from the shore, exposing the ocean floor. Recognizing this as a sign of an incoming tsunami, he warned the villagers to flee to higher ground. This understanding of tsunami behavior was passed down through generations. The ancient Greeks also had similar observations. Historian Thucydides wrote about the link between underwater earthquakes and the giant waves that followed. Modern science confirms that a sudden withdrawal of the sea often precedes a tsunami. This happens because the tectonic activity that causes an earthquake under the sea floor can displace massive amounts of water, creating a vacuum effect that pulls water away from the shore before it comes crashing back as a tsunami. Today, scientists use a network of deep-sea sensors to detect underwater earthquakes and send alerts to coastal areas, but the basic knowledge that a retreating sea signals danger remains a key warning sign. Storm predictions. Watching the sky and stars. Storms, including hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons, have been monitored by humans for thousands of years. Ancient cultures had no satellites to provide aerial views of developing storms, but they did have the ability to observe the sky, winds, and animal behaviors closely. The indigenous Taino people of the Caribbean, for example, watched the clouds and paid close attention to the behavior of birds to predict hurricanes. If birds flew inland and behaved erratically, it was often a sign that a storm was approaching. Similarly, they would watch for sudden changes in wind patterns or cloud formations that seemed to gather rapidly on the horizon. In ancient India, detailed descriptions in texts like the Rig Veda talk about how the sages observed the movement of the stars and moon to predict the coming of monsoon rains. Farmers relied heavily on these predictions to decide when to plant and harvest their crops. Modern meteorologists still use these basic principles, but rely on satellite imagery and computer models to predict weather patterns more accurately. It's fascinating to think that thousands of years ago, people were already making accurate weather predictions using only their eyes and experience. Animal behavior, nature's early warning system. One of the most intriguing ways that ancient cultures predicted natural disasters was by observing animal behavior. Across many different cultures, from Asia to Europe and the Americas, stories abound of animals acting strangely before disasters struck. In China, ancient records from 373 BC tell of snakes and rats abandoning the city of Helaik days before a massive earthquake struck, destroying the city. Similarly, in Italy, there are reports of toads leaving their ponds before an earthquake hit. These behaviors were not random. The animals were likely sensing something that humans could not: vibrations, changes in the Earth's electromagnetic field, or chemical changes in the air or water. Modern scientists have studied this phenomenon and found some truth to these ancient observations. Animals might be able to sense early tremors, changes in the air, or even sounds that are outside the range of human hearing. However, these signs aren't always reliable, and scientists today combine these natural signs with advanced technology to improve the accuracy of disaster predictions. What modern science says about ancient predictions. Today, with all our advanced technology, satellites, seismic sensors, deep-sea monitors, and more, we have a much better ability to predict natural disasters than ancient civilizations did. But it's important to recognize that many of the signs and patterns they observed are still relevant today. For instance, Japan, a country with a long history of earthquakes and tsunamis, has one of the most advanced early warning systems in the world, blending ancient wisdom with modern technology. They still teach children to recognize the signs of natural disasters, such as an unusual retreat of the sea, just as their ancestors did thousands of years ago. Modern science has confirmed many of the patterns ancient people observed, showing that their methods were not just based on superstition, but on keen observations of the natural world. By combining ancient wisdom with modern technology, we can better prepare for and respond to natural disasters. The stories and methods from ancient cultures remind us that being aware of our surroundings and understanding natural signs are still vital skills today. The legacy of ancient wisdom. So, what can we learn from the ways ancient cultures predicted natural disasters? First, that their methods were often rooted in careful observation and a deep understanding of their environment. They paid attention to changes in the behavior of animals, the sea, the sky, and the land to anticipate dangers. Second, their methods remind us of the importance of staying connected to the natural world, even in our modern, technology-driven age. By learning from the past and combining it with the tools we have today, we can improve our ability to predict natural disasters and protect our communities. The wisdom of our ancestors still holds value, helping us navigate a world where natural disasters remain a constant threat. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Fact Fusion, and click the bell icon to stay updated on our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.